Hello and welcome back. In this we're going to talk about file handling in Python. Let's get into it very quick because it's going to be a long video. So file handling. Reading and writing in a file is a persistent. What does persistent mean? Let's see. So most of the program you must have seen till this time are transient. That is, they run for a short time and produces some output at that time only. But when they end, the data disappears. Okay, and there are other programs which are persistence. That means they run for a longer time or all the time. We can say they keep some of the data in the permanent memory. Okay, that is our hardware, let's say. And if we shut down a PC, a computer, or let's say restart, they pick up from the point where we have left it off. What is an example we can say of persistent? It is nothing but our OS, operating system. Okay, like where we leave, from there we start. Okay, one of the simplest way for program to maintain their data is by reading and writing the text files. Okay, there is simple way to maintain our data is by reading and writing a text file. As taken an example from MS Word, Microsoft Office Word, there we write some data, we save it, and then afterwards when we come after 2 to 3 days, we're going to see whatever we have written before few days. Okay, so that is what is persistent, that the files are persistent. Reading and writing a file is persistent. An alternative is to store the state of the program in a database, and another form is to store it in a database. Okay, and in this video I'll present you a simple database and a module called Pickle that makes it easy to store program data. Okay, so we're going to talk about Pickle, one of the important module which comes handy with Python, and then we're going to talk about databases. So reading and writing file is persistent. That means the data is stored in a long run. Okay, where we stopped, from there we can start again after some time. So Python also supports the topic file handling, that is reading and writing in a file. Python directly treats a file text as text or binary, like other programming languages. Okay, each line of code includes a sequence of characters and they form a text file. Okay, they have some sequence of characters which forms a text file. Each line of a text is terminated with a special character which is called as end of line character. Okay, that can be a comma, that can be a period, that can be a new line character. Okay, now let us start with reading and writing a file. Okay, so we have open function. Whenever we read a file or whenever we want to access a file, we need to open it, of course. So we have open function which opens a file. So we use open function to open a file in read or write mode. We're going to see what these modes are. Okay, what these modes are going to we're going to have a look over that. So we have open function which reads or write the file in open mode. So we have open, which takes two arguments, that are file name and the mode, which can be seen over here. Okay, so we have open function which says file name, which takes an argument as file name and mode. Okay, so these are different type of modes, like reading a file, writing a file, appending a file, then both reading and writing a file. Okay, so these three are important modes. Okay, reading a file, that is used as R, then W, and then A. Okay, so we have R plus also. We're going to see different type of modes. One more thing, that mode argument is not necessary, that if it is not satisfied, we have a default value, that is the R, that is reading is considered to be as default value. We're going to have different modes. Let us try writing a code in editor so that we get more about it. So like, I'll create a new file. I guess I have already done this. So let's say we wanna read a file. No, we wanna read a file. Reading a file. The way in which I'm reading a file over here is very simple. Okay, or it's a very basic way. Okay, so how do we first of all open a file? So you need to give a file object. So here we have file as file object, which is going to open a file. Okay, which is going to open a file. I have a file in my same directory called file handling. Okay, it is a text file. It is a text file, and I'm going to have my mode, let's say read mode, or I'm going to open it in read mode, and I want to print all the files or all the text which is there in that. So for each in file, okay, for each in file, print each. Okay, I want to print each line in that file. So let's run this by saving, I guess. Okay, let's say reading a file. Okay, whatever. So let's run this. What happens? I'm going to open a shell, of course. Okay, here we have all the lines which are there inside that file. This is what the first slide was. Okay, reading a file and whatever. Okay, so this is how we read a file. Okay, do you get that? Like if you wanna access each line in a file, then we're going to do this. We're going to have one more method. We're going to use read function for that, which we'll see further. Okay, so this is one first approach you can say for reading a file. Okay, so now let's move towards our presentation. So we have different modes, and mode is not necessary. If it is not satisfied, it is not justified or it's not specified, we're going to have our default mode, that is the read mode. Okay, now there are different access modes, as you have seen. Like we have these things, no, read, write, append, and R+. So we have similar different modes also. Like for read, I have RB also, and RB, R+ also, RB+ also. Okay, these are the arrow ones which are going to look over in detail. The rest are all similar. Let's say R, we have seen, like it opens a file. Okay, for reading mode only, and the file pointer is placed at the beginning of the file. It means that the cursor is at the beginning. Okay, it is not going to edit anything. It is just going to show us what is there in that file. So we have opening up, it opens a file, pointer is at the beginning, and this is the default mode. We have RB, which does the same thing but in binary format. Okay, similarly we have R+, which is going to open a file in reading and writing mode both. Okay, the file pointer is again placed at the beginning of the file. We have RB+, which does the same thing in the binary format. We have W, which opens a file in writing mode. This is an important thing, that overrides the file if the file exists. Okay, if the file exists, it's going to overwrite whatever we are going to have our text in it, that's going to get overwritten. If the file does not exist, it's going to create a file. Okay, then WB does the same thing but in binary format. We have W+, which opens a file for both writing and reading, and it's overwrite the file if it exists. Okay, writing and reading, but it overrides the file when it exists. We have WB+, which does the same thing but in binary format. We have append, which opens a file for appending. The file pointer is at the end of the file. This is important for appending, that the pointer is at the end. It's going to add something in the file. That is, the file is appended. The file is in the append mode. If the file does not exist, it creates a file. Okay, both W also and A also is going to create a file if it does not exist. Then we have AB, which does the same thing but in binary format. We have A+, which does what? Opens a file in appending and reading. Okay, if the file does not exist, it's going to create it, and the pointer is at the end of the file. And AB+ does the same thing but in binary format. Okay, so we have text file and binary file, and we have different accessing modes for that, for them respectively. We have R, RB, R+, RB+, similarly W and A also. Because these are different access modes that you can use. Okay, let's move next. So we have access. Okay, now reading a file. Okay, we know how do we access those files, how do we open that files. Now what we need to do is to read. We want to read a file. Okay, so for reading a file, we have three different ways. Like for read, okay, then read line and read lines. Okay, this is the thing we're going to go in depth a little bit, an example and something. And these are the thing what theory. Okay, so we have read. This is one of the way to read a file. One more way to read a file, like the previous way was to use for for each in file, print each lines in a file. So this is one more way, and the syntax is like file object. What file object? This is called as the file object. Okay, file object dot read. As you can see, file object dot read. The full code work like this. We have a file, we are going to open it, okay, and in read mode, and we're going to read it. Okay, this works similar as we have done. Let's do it one more time. Still, I'm going to go to read mode. Okay, I'm going to run this once more, and it happens like it prints everything that is there in the file. Okay, is that clear? It reads everything that is there in the file. Now moving back to our presentation. So this is what is read, what read does. Then we have read line and read lines. Okay, read line and read lines. You can say by the word, by the thing only, the function only, that read line which is going to read a line, and read line is going to read multiple lines. Okay, so read line reads a line from a file and returns it in a form of string. But one thing, that we're going to have n as a parameter, which is going to take a value integer, that how many bytes do you want. So if it does not reads more than one line, even if n exceeds the length of the line. So if there are just 10 words in the 10 letters, we can say 10 characters in that particular line, but I entered 20, even if the n exceeds, it is just going to print a line. It is going to read only a line. Then we have read lines, it's going to read multiple lines. One important thing is that file object is what? File object dot read, and then we have parentheses in square brackets like n. Okay, parameter. Then we have read lines object, file object, and read lines in the same way. You can see over here. Okay, this is very much important. Syntaxes are important. You can get syntax error. Now we opened the file. And read it also. Now we need to close it. How do we close it? We close it by using close function. So close function closes the file and frees that memory space which is acquired by that file. It is used at the time when the file is no longer needed. The syntax is as follows, and you can see this is how do we open. We will open a file, we will do something whatever we need to do, and we're going to close it. So closing is important, because if I opened a file, I need to free the memory now. So closing is important. Now we read a file. Now we're going to write in a file. We read in a file. We read a file, whatever the content is. We read a file. Now we're going to write in it. Okay. So now let us see how do we create a file to write in a write mode. A write function inserts. So this is the first approach. So write inserts the string in a single line in a text file. You will see. I'm gonna run this program. So we have file is equals to open file handling.txt, whatever my file is. I am opening or accessing it in W mode. W is writing mode, and we have seen that if I go for writing mode, it is going to create if it does not exist, and it is going to overwrite it. So whatever content was there on that particular file, it is going to get overwritten by this particular thing. Okay, by this is a write command, and it allows you to write in a particular file. And I'm going to close it. Now let us see. I'm going to this write mode. Okay, so this is the same thing like file, open, write this, and we have print. I'm going to tell that please read this particular file. Run this. It got what we want to do. Now let us move towards that, what this is that file.txt which got overwritten. That this is the write command, and it allows you to write in a particular file. Is that clear? So this is what is our observation, that if we use the write mode, it is going to get overwritten, and write method helps us to write it, okay, to write on that particular file. So this was writing on a file, the first approach. Okay, the first approach is to write that we are going to write in a file. We're going to insert a particular string on that particular function as our argument. Now this is the second approach, which is write lines, which is for a list of strings, a string element. Each string is inserted in a text file, and it is used to insert multiple strings at a single time. Like in the previous one, we just can we need to use this particular write function multiple times, but over here in the second approach where we write lines, so we're going to use we can have multiple lines on a single time. Okay, so as first string, second string, third string, we're going to pass it as list. Okay, so this is very much important. Files and the syntax, like file object dot read lines L for the particular list. Okay, try it out and comment down if you get any error. Okay, so this is your writing a file second approach. Now working on append mode. What does append mode does? Like it does what? Sorry, it does appending. It just add more lines to it. Okay, it writes on a file. Like we are going to open it on append mode. Let's see, let's try this in. Now I'm going to open it again. Okay, like this, and there you go. This will add this line. Okay, this is what we have done in append mode. Let us add a line feed in it. Wait, \n. Okay, and star so that you get it. Oops, let me run it first. No, so it got. Now let us see file handling. So we got a line feed and we have star. This will add this line. Is that clear? So this is how we append a file. Now let's back to our presentation. So we have append mode also. So this is going to append a file. Get the syntax. We are having a mode, that is append mode here, and we are using write. So file names and path. Till now we have written the file, or we have accessed the file using what? Using this file handling.txt, its file name, but we can also have its path. Like the files are organized into dictionaries. Okay, dictionaries are nothing, directories. Okay, directories are nothing but folders. Okay, so we have a particular file into a particular folder. Okay, like over here, if I talk, I have this, like this PC, then I have local disk E, then YouTube, then I have file handling, in which I have this file handling.txt. So this is nothing but the path. Okay, so this is nothing but the path. That is like these are organized into dictionaries. For every running program we have a current working directory. So here in this particular case, what we have the current working directory, we have current working directory as video 10 file handling. Okay, so for every running program we have a current working directory, which is the default directory for most operations. Like whatever operation I will be doing, whatever Python files in it, whatever Python files we have in it, it is going to have this as this video 10 file handling as its current working directory. Okay, so how do we get which is our current directory? Now to get what our current directory is, let's get into editor, so that Python shell, so that I can explain you how. So to get into our current working directory, I need to import operating system. Okay, so this is the process. Like we need to import our operating system. Now we're going to use cwd, that is I'm using as a variable current working directory. I'm going to use os.getcwd. Okay, that is get current working directory, and I'm going to tell them to print cwd. Now let us see. So this is okay, we are in YouTube video 10 file handling. Is that clear? So this is how we get our current working directory. Now this current working directory, that is our path, is of two types. We have two types as relative path and absolute path. What is relative path? Relative path starts from current directory, and absolute path starts from the topmost directory. Now what if I want to get the absolute path of my OS? So for getting absolute path, I'm going to use os dot path dot abs path. Okay, dot abs path. I'm going to write the file name, like I need file handling dot txt. Let's see. So we have the path as we have E, then we have YouTube, then we have video 10 in file handling, and then we have file handling.txt. Okay, so if we want to check whether the file exists or directory exists or not, then we use what? Os dot path. Okay, os dot path dot exists, and we will use the file name like file handling.txt. Okay, it will give me true because it does exist. But if it does not, then it is going to give false. Still, let me try it out. False, it does not exist. Okay, we have seen, like, we can have the path instead of file name if our directory, or if our particular file, text file or png file or whatever file, database file is on different location, we can have its path also. Now let's get into one of the most important topic when you talk about file handling, is creating databases. Okay, so database is nothing but a file that is organized for storing data, of course. Okay, most databases are organized like in the sense that they map from keys and values. Okay, they map their data in keys and values. The only biggest difference in dictionary and databases is that it is persistent. Okay, that means after you end the program, it runs. Okay, it's still there. Okay, the module dbm provides us an interface for creating and updating database files. Okay, so for an example, I'm going to create a database that is going to capture a particular image. Let's get into editor. Okay, I'm in shell, so let's import dbm. Okay, now I'm going to open a file as we do in our basic file handling. Okay, like dbm dot open captions. I'm going to open a database file. One thing to note, I'm going to open it in create mode. Now dbm, database management, I guess its full form is whatever. So dbm has a new mode called C, which is a create mode. Like if it does not exist, then you're going to create it, and if it already exists, then open it. Okay, now this, as I said you what create mode means. Okay, now we are going to assign a image caption. Okay, I'm going to assign image a caption. So for doing that, I need to open that image. So db, okay, db, and I'll say like Google logo. So this is the png file which I have on my directory, current working directory. Say to it as logo of Google. Okay, logo of Google. So this is what I have assigned a png file, a caption, that it is a Google logo of Google. Okay, now we can access this also. So dbm reads the file as print db, that is the file object. I'll say Google logo dot png. Okay, let's see what it says. It says Google logo of Google. Okay, I can rename it also. Okay, you can assign another you can make another assignment to an existing key also, like replacing the old value. Like let's say I want to copy it paste it, and I want to add from home page. Okay, from home page. Now it has been updated. Now let's do the same thing, that is print db Google logo, and it's got updated. Okay, so many dictionary method like keys and values also work with the database object. So does iteration for with a for loop, a for statement also. Like for if you want to access the key, what is the key with that value? So it just had a key, so key in db. What do we have? I'll say print key. I want to print all the keys that is present in this particular database. So it is just one, that is Google logo.png. Okay, now as other files, you are also going to close dbm. Okay, like db the file object dot close. Okay, so this is how we close a file. Now if I try to access this, if I try to write this, as you know, like if I close a file and then try to access, it's going to get me an error, and it say OS error, operating system error, like dbm object has already been closed. Okay, so this is one important thing. Like from here to here, like we can have a database, we can caption a figure, a caption of image also. So dbm is another method by which we can organize storing data. Okay, now let's talk about another thing, that is pickling. Okay, see, dbm has a disadvantage. Database has a disadvantage, limitation, that it can store just keys and values. Okay, it just can have keys and values, and that keys and values can only be strings. Okay, now here pickle models comes into play, where it translates almost any type of object into strings, which is suitable for storage in database. It's suitable for storage in database. So if you try to have any other data type like list or tuple, you're going to get an error. Okay, you get an error. This, now we have few functions of pickle, like we have pickle.dumps and pickle.loads. Pickle dumps takes an object as a parameter and returns a string representation, and pickle loads reconstitutes the object. Okay, whatever we have the object, like it can be tuple, it can be a list, it converts it to a string and returns a string, and loads, that string is taken to the database, we can say. Let's get into what our editor, so that we can understand more about pickle. Okay, so I'm going to continue in this only. For that I need to import what? I'm also going to import pickle. So import pickle. Let's say I have a list 1, 2, 3. Okay, and I want to dump it, I want to convert it to string. So s is equals to, oh sorry, let's say, yes, I want to dump it. So pickle dot dump, and I want to dump t. So this got converted, whatever. Okay, don't take this as something very important, it is just got converted. Okay, the format isn't obvious, we are not able to read it, it's not human readable, but it is easy for pickle to interpret. Now going to use pickle load, which means loading a string. Pickle dump means dump a string. Okay, dump a string. Now pickle loads, which reconstitutes the object, like we have t1 as another list which has the same members 1, 2 and 3, or same elements 1, 2, 3. Okay, then I do pickle dumps t. Okay, t1. Okay, we have t1. Now then I have t2, which is pickle dot load, and I'm loading loads, not just load, loads s. Okay, so the string is loaded to t2, whatever the t1 is converted to string by s, and s is converted to that particular database t2, okay, or particular value t2. Now if I said to print t2, then I'm going to get the same thing, okay, but it is in a string format. I can say, like, although the new object has the same values as the old, but it is not the same object. Okay, now let's check. As I said that they both are same, but they are not. Let's check why I'm telling this. Like, if I say t is equal to t2, I'm checking. Yes, it is true, the elements are same. But if I say is t is t2, is t2, false, it is not t2. Though the elements are same, but it is not same, but the particular variable is not same. In other words, pickling and unpickling has the same effect as copying the object. Okay, we're going to copy one string, one tuple, list, or anything is got copied to another variable. Okay, so pickling and unpickling has the same effect as copying the object. Now you can use pickle to store non-strings in the database. Okay, so if you want to use non-strings, before we just had list strings in databases, now we can have pickle, which helps us to have non-strings. So by this, I'm signing off by telling you to click on subscribe button so that you never miss any update. Also want to add that I'm also on Blogger now, where I write about the video and provide you notes. Go check that out. The link is in the description, and don't forget to like and share also. Thanks.